bit of extra support, just get in touch with me and we'll have a one-on-one session. Any general questions can be directed to Ailsa. That's at careers@uvic.ca. And then anything specific to me, I'll put it in the chat, but my email is carriesvaughn@uvic.ca. And again, I'll put that in the chat. So just to introduce myself for the people I don't know, I'm Carrie Vaughn, the alumni career educator. One of the great benefits of being a UVic alum is that you have ongoing access to career advice and support for long after you've graduated. So at this point, I've been helping recent grads and I've been helping people into their 50s and 60s and 70s that are UVic grads. I have over 20 years of experience in career development or academic planning. Apart from hosting these workshops and events, I can also provide, like I mentioned, one-on-one support to recent grads, people who may be in a career transition at this point. And I'm also always happy to support people ongoing on their jobs if there's any support that they need. Maybe you want to learn how to ask for a raise, things like that. So ongoing support. Some of the things I commonly help with are resumes or CVs, cover letters, helping you prep for interviews, graduate school applications. I've been doing a lot because those are coming up, and making general career plans. Yeah, so that's me. Again, feel free to connect with me directly. I'll put my email in the chat. And in the spirit of having Lucas here, you can also connect with me via LinkedIn if you want to come on and practice your networking a little bit. So I think that's it for me. So I really want to give a big welcome to Lucas Main for joining us. Lucas graduated from UVic in 2014. So yeah, as he mentioned before we started, that's been 10 years. It flies by. He earned a bachelor's degree in computer science. Since then, he's worked in several industries, including oil and gas, e-commerce, financial services, and HR, but always with software in those different industries. He currently lives and works in London for LinkedIn as an account director, working with enterprise-sized clients to ensure they have the right tools to be able to meet their hiring and internal development goals. So now I'm going to pass it over to Lucas, and I'll go ahead and go off camera for this. We'll come back together at the end. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you'll get an opportunity later. And that's it for me. Thanks so much, Lucas.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that. Can you still hear me okay? I can appreciate there's been a few people who've joined since, and yeah, good nod of the head. That's great. Thank you for the introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here. I do have a friend on the call here who's sending me text updates as we go, and I think I just got the last one was Boo Oil and Gas. Yeah, unfortunately, I did work for an oil and gas software tech company a few years ago. Not my proudest moment, but here we are, a few years on, and putting that well behind us. But good to have you all on here, and I encourage, although Carrie did say to sort of keep yourselves muted at the end. It's always a bit of a strange way to go about doing this, is me just talking at a camera for potentially 30 to 40 minutes here. So I would encourage you, if you do have a question or a comment, a heartache, a concern, whatever it is, then while I'm going through this, feel free to unmute yourself and just say, hey, I have a quick question. Or if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself or coming onto the voice piece there, drop it in the chat, like we said, and we'll try and come to that. But what I will do, just to sort of, while I pull up my presentation here, if everybody can just jump into the chat really quickly, get a bit of engagement from you, because I can appreciate it's midday and you're probably just eating lunch maybe, or about to eat lunch. Why, if you can put it in one or two, three words, why are you joining this? Why did you decide to join this? What would be beneficial for yourself? So if you can jump to the chat while I pull up my presentation, why are you here? What is it that you would want to get out of this? And not so many words, just in the chat would be super helpful for myself. I'm going to go from that, based off of that. Like to get hired, that's a good one. I like that. I don't mind that at all. Let me pull up my screen here. I'll go back to the chat really quickly. finding specific contacts at companies, update my LinkedIn profile. I'd like to get hired. Yeah, I think I'm underutilizing LinkedIn. It's funny, I've lived in the UK now for 6 years. Seeing underutilized being used with a Z instead of an S is a little bit jarring. So that's good to see. Connecting with industry peers, looking to optimize my LinkedIn account, learn how to benefit from using LinkedIn challenges and job search. Never use LinkedIn. Oh, interesting. Okay, how to use LinkedIn, network, unemployment, fair, improve my LinkedIn profile. Just found out LinkedIn might be an alternative to career sites. Absolutely, improving LinkedIn skills and usage of platform. Great. Okay, so just some general sort of we're looking potentially from a job seeking lens, understanding how to connect and become sort of better users of LinkedIn. I think I have the presentation for you and the content to go alongside it. And again, oh, okay, Brenda, for planning to use LinkedIn more extensively as a sales and marketing tool for our company in 2025, you might have some questions at the end. We can definitely. I work in sales using LinkedIn, so perfect overlap there as well. Great. Cool. So like I said, my name is Lucas. We're going to guide you through a some somewhat straightforward agenda. We're going to get to know LinkedIn, why LinkedIn, and then we're going to talk a little bit around your profile and your story and how that actually differs from a CV or a resume. Okay. Then we're going to talk a little bit more around what is beyond your LinkedIn profile and what does that actually look like from a networking, a learning perspective. And then, yeah, I'll do some Q&A at the end. Happily, again, go at that as we go as well. And then we'll do a bit of a wrap up. So, but let's first dig into sort of give you a bit of an insight into LinkedIn itself. So we sort of have a main vision, and our main vision as a company is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. And what that means is it puts us sort of in a good position to sort of try and help everybody find jobs, connect people and companies together to generate economic opportunity that way. We have this amazing platform that gives us the ability to do that. And our mission is to move this away so it's not over that. Connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So our mission lends to our vision. The vision is sort of this never attainable piece, and we put our members first into our mission. So anything that you see today, and that's sort of how we differentiate ourselves a little bit from other social media platforms is by putting members first. So LinkedIn doesn't necessarily need to generate revenue off of you as a user of the platform, a member of the platform, because we have partnerships and agreements with companies who utilize our platform. Through that, that's how we're able to generate revenue. So we don't necessarily need to use you. I mean, if it's people on this call who've seen the Social Dilemma, I believe is the name of the Netflix documentary, talks all around like data and farming data and using that to advertise and keep you hooked on the platform. LinkedIn we like to differentiate ourselves a little bit that way in that we don't necessarily need to do that. So you as members are our most important company value, because without you, the platform doesn't exist and we can't do any of the cool stuff that we do want to do. Okay. And that sort of gives us this level of trust. And it is at the core of everything that we do as well. So we want to make sure that you feel that you can trust this platform to help you achieve whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's finding a new job or connecting with an old colleague or connecting with an alumni from your university is a perfect example. Okay. And we want to help connect people who are part of that sort of knowledge network and people, consumers who are part of that consumer network who are looking for insights and join those two elements together. Okay, so we sort of think of it as a bit more of a knowledge exchange platform. Can appreciate there are some people on the platform who are using it out there as their own personal sort of this is me, how great am I, don't forget about me today platform. We're not necessarily, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about them today, but do want you to sort of know that that's not necessarily the mission behind why LinkedIn was created. In terms of the platform itself, there's just over 1 billion members worldwide, so it's quite extensive. In Canada, we've got just over 21 million, 202 million in the US, and then for myself here over in Europe, it's a bit of a sort of sporadic amount, but we're global. The only place we don't necessarily operate is we do have 59 million members in Chinese mainland, mostly, actually it shouldn't be Chinese mainland, but it's Singapore and Hong Kong still have access. Actually, I'm not so sure about Hong Kong anymore, but we don't necessarily operate behind the Chinese firewall anymore. So we're everywhere else besides, oh, there's Hong Kong's in this separate little bubble down here. And all of that sort of helps power what we call our economic graph. And this is what you're sort of a part of as well, is the ability to connect and generate this huge platform of information. It's again, we have just over 1 billion members on the platform. There's over 63 million companies. We use the 39,000 skills here in the middle to talk around like what the potential sort of interactions are amongst people. So if you're looking to learn a new skill or you have skills that you want to put on your profile, things like that, that's what we're talking about when we talk about skills on the platform. So there's tons of information flying around there. There's over 128,000 schools. So that includes UVic, it includes colleges, post, I guess, high school places as well. You can go for continuing education. And then we also have this huge skill development platform actually on LinkedIn Learning as well, which has, I need to update that number. I just realized on the right-hand side that we have over 20,000 courses on LinkedIn Learning as well. So for anybody here who's had a chance to utilize LinkedIn Learning, you've been a part of that as well. And right in the bottom, at the middle, in the middle there, we have just over 2 billion updates or pieces of information flying around the platform every single day. So LinkedIn is a huge platform. There's a huge amount of things that you can do with this. We utilize it. We actually help governments and academic institutions like UVic actually produce research studies and things like that, help guide governments using this data on what's the workforce reports. We've just released our most recent global workforce trends reports, which are free to read if you're interested in learning what's it like, what we're seeing from our perspective, what are HR leaders, what are companies thinking about from a workforce perspective as well. Any questions on LinkedIn? Appreciate I didn't look at the chat that whole time, just monologue straight at you, but anybody have any questions? Too long, didn't read. Summary of that is LinkedIn's big a platform and it has lots of data behind it. Okay, great, nice. Let's move on to why you're actually here. So we're going to talk a little bit around what your LinkedIn profile should be. How does it differ from your resume or your CV? So if you were to sort of summarize this section a little bit, your CV and your resume are something you're going to be building specifically for a specific job that you're going to be applying for. So if you're applying, like we use myself as an account director, if you're going to apply for an account director role, you're going to build a CV or a resume specifically tailored for that role. How am I going to showcase the skills and the experience that I have that exactly match this role that I'm going for? Wherein your LinkedIn profile differs is it's much more of your overall story or your overall career journey to how you've gotten here today. Okay, so that's what you want to think of the lens when you're building your LinkedIn profile. It isn't necessarily just a copy and paste of your CV. While that is a good place, sorry, CV resume, that is a good place to start. I do recommend that you tailor that to sort of weave a thread through it. Why do we say that? I'll get into that a little bit more throughout that, but just remember that sort of your profile, your career story. So the first thing to update, if you haven't in a while, is take a look at your photo and update your photo. So people with people with photos actually get a lot more connection requests, and it adds authenticity to your profile. My recommendations here: you don't need to necessarily go and get a professional headshot done by a photographer. The phone in your pocket or on your desk, wherever you are at the moment, takes an incredible photo. I just recommend not doing a selfie. So try and get somebody else to take a picture for you if you can. And just make sure your background is generally neutral. I appreciate in our example here, Sarah doesn't necessarily have a general neutral background, but if you have a white background, I've got a good, maybe mine's not the best at the moment, but there's a wall over here that's white, and use something like that as well with a good natural light source in front of you. Just simple stuff. I think there's a lot more people here probably with photo skills than I do, but make sure the photo is just you, it's your headshot, and it's in the top of your profile. The other thing, sorry, quickly to go into that, you'll see there's also sort of a banner image at the top. For those folks who are currently looking for jobs, it's often a question, what do I put in that picture there? I would say what I was doing when I was looking for roles, I just had a picture of, I'm based in London, I just had the London skyline in the background there. I had some sort of generic stock image that came off the internet for your banner image there as well. And if for those of you who are in a role currently, your social media team potentially, well, if you're in a small company, maybe not, don't have a social media team, but if you're in a sort of medium to larger size company, you may have a social media team who has some imagery they'd like you to potentially using. Okay, so you can also use that in your banner image as well. Okay. Then next one, does anybody here have a difficult to pronounce name? Any Irish folks on the call? That one's always a fun one. I work with a lot of Irish people. We have a big we have a big office in Dublin here in Ireland. And London isn't in Ireland, it's in the UK, and Ireland is not in the UK. Sorry, there's a lot of geopolitics going on there, but just know I work with a lot of Irish folks, and it's really helpful that when they've recorded their name, that I can hear them speak their own name before I go and meet them. There's a lot of Cuivas that's not how you spell Cuiva. Don't try and guess how to spell Cuiva. You'll get it wrong. Siobhan's a good example as well. Okay, so if you have a sort of a name that people get wrong often, or you find yourself having to repeat yourself what your name is, go ahead, record your name in the app, and just get sort of avoid that awkward stance right at the beginning when you get into it. There's a quick question, Noah. Good. How does a neutral background compare to a technical one? Say you work in a shipyard and have a marine in the background. That's fine. I would just say a general rule of thumb is to have a neutral background. But yes, if you work in a industry where you're outside or you're working with things that are notable like that, absolutely use that. It was just more sort of a guidance, general rule of thumb. But good question. Number 3. Pronouns. You want to showcase, show up as your authentic self. We're going to talk about authenticity a lot throughout this, so it's optional to add, and you set the visibility, but people and hiring managers believe it's important and shows a little bit of respect, and we're trying to create a air of inclusion here and make sure that everybody feels welcome on the platform, and that it's an easy step for yourself to take a part of. So make sure you've added your pronouns in there as well. And I appreciate I jumped from step 3 to step 5 because step 4 no longer is a piece of our platform. We used to have a video introduction that went away about 4 months ago. So I updated, I took the slide out, but I didn't update the numbers here. So we're going from step 3 to step 5, okay? And this is the one that I always get the most number of questions on, is how do I draft a compelling summary? I will come back to your question, Learn Tech, after this in a second as well. So this is always a tough one, and actually it was a lot tougher before ChatGPT and all the sort of great generative AI tools came along. Because starting from scratch and writing your compelling summary is something that's very difficult to do. But what I would recommend doing is with ChatGPT or any of the tools that you have access to is take your profile, throw it at ChatGPT and say, write me a compelling summary, and see what it comes out with. But from there, I would also then say, take a second step and say to yourself, okay, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish with my summary? If we do it from the lens of you being a job seeker or somebody who's looking to get a new job, what you want to create is a summary that showcases how you got to the position that you are today or where you are currently, and just gives that elevator pitch of why you're sort of interested in the roles that you're interested in. And again, we're thinking of this from not from a specific role, and that's why I said roles there, or position, is it's your story a little bit. So when you think about your summary, think of it as much more of an overarching, like capture all elevator pitch, if that's the way you want to put it. And the way to write it, I always recommend, is you always start with why. Why is it that you are the way that you are, or why is it that you're trying to do the thing you're trying to do? Okay, what is it that will actually make you stand out as a headline? So I'm passionate about software's ability to make people's lives easier, and that's why I work in software. So that's my why. I'm very passionate about that, its ability to help people, as sort of Carrie mentioned. I did a computer science degree and pivoted hard to the left and went into a sales role. So that's, again, something I can tell through my why, is that I do enjoy working with software still, but I do find that it delivers a lot more value to people from my sense, from working in a sales role. So start with why when you're writing in your summary. The second piece then is to go with the what. What do you actually want to do, or what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And again, I can appreciate this is only 3 or 4 sentences, right? So you're gonna have to get really creative. But again, you can always ask for ChatGPT to chip it down for you. So what is it that you actually do, and how do you achieve that? So with those 3 things, so why you do, what you actually want to do, or what you currently do, and how you go about doing that, or how you plan to go about doing that, you'll give yourself a good summary to sort of jump off of as well. And it'll hopefully flow really well at the same time. I recommend writing this from the first person. I think this is let's see here. I have an extensive experience. Yeah, there's a one, I think there's a picture later on where it comes up and it's talking in the third person. So our recommendation is always to write things in the first person. That changed a couple of years ago because I think we were just like, just do whatever you want. But then it felt a little bit weird that you're writing about yourself in the third person on this profile that other people are reading. So our recommendation has definitely changed since then. And there was a question I was going to answer. I promised I would. There was a question: what's your recommendation about ethnic name versus English name, especially if English name is not your preferred name? Wow, that's a tough one to my recommendation is whatever you feel the most comfortable with that you would prefer people called you by, and then utilizing that sort of functionality of recording your own name and hopefully people getting it right because they've been able to read or sorry, listen to your um, recorded name would be my sort of recommendation to yourself. Yeah, I think that's what I'll leave that. I'll leave that one. And go ahead, Brenda, you have a question. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, no worries, no stress. Just everybody's waiting with bated breath. I hope everybody else can't hear her, or it's just me and I'm losing my mind over here. I wonder if
How
I
about now?
can. Yes, there we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. It looks like my speaker was muted in the software, not just in the program. But anyway, okay. So when you speak about the why and the what questions, are you referring to the why being kind of, because there's your headline in LinkedIn
Hmm.
says your about. So was the why speaking to the headline? And the what speaking to the about section, or I think I missed that.
Good question. No, I didn't cover it properly. So your headline is as it's sort of you could see here a little bit. In the Sarah King example, right under their name, Sarah King says here, senior accountant at Anatith or something like that. That's your headline. So your headline is going to be by default, I think it defaults to your current job title at the current company you're at. So mine will say account director at LinkedIn. However, your headline, you can also update that as well. So your headline, I always recommend or encourage to add a bit of flair or a bit of creativity to it as well. So myself, I have mine as account director at LinkedIn. And then I have a bar that says, and I'm a thrower of discs in parks. Why do I put that in there? I play a lot of ultimate frisbee. I play a lot of disc golf. It's a quirky sort of hobby that I have that generally people haven't heard of, and it gets a conversation started. So somebody, as my sort of main goal at the moment is to utilize LinkedIn to create connections with my clients and work better with them. It's a good conversation starter. So that's the headline. Your headline can be is separate from your sort of summary or your about section and can be edited as well. This here, this why, the what and how piece is much more specifically around your about section.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I've struggled a bit and changed kind of the headline over the years, depending on, I didn't want to just be a blank. This is my position, this is my company. So I've kind of melded kind of I'm a specialist in this area, but I don't mention the company name in the headline.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if that's a disservice, if most people
Um,
put their company name in the headline.
to a degree, because not really, because people will click into your profile and see the company you work for. The thing to be conscious of is the thing that you appear in search results. It'll say Brenda, and then it will say your headline. So
Okay.
if there's multiple people, it will showcase that. So if it's important, I think to yourself, and that's sort of a decision you'll have to make that your company is highlighted,
Okay.
then yeah, keep it in there. But at the same time, if somebody's interested enough, you've captured their attention, they're probably coming to your profile anyway, so they're going to see
So it
your
depends
company.
on basically your intent and purpose, and that can change over time, right? Like, so for example, like I said, one of the reasons that I'm the sales and marketing director for my company, so we're going to be using LinkedIn a little bit more um, collectively for our sales team. So if we're going to be doing it as a company presentation of the people within our department, then it makes more sense to include the company in that headline because we're using it as a way to promote the company.
100%. Yeah. And if your brand sort of your overarching brand is going to be that everybody has that, then yes, for sure.
All right, thank you.
No, good question. Was there any in the chat I missed? No. Driving right ahead. Cool. Feature content. So for those folks who may have worked on a project, have an academic article as an example, again, I'm speaking to sort of alumni of the university here. If you have anything that sort of that is eye capturing, or posts that you created on LinkedIn that were really sort of popular or drove a lot of attention, you can feature those on your profile as well. So this is something just to be aware of, not necessarily a must do, but just know that you can feature content at the top of your profile to have it stand out right at the top. So if you think about yourselves, when you're going to other people's profiles, you're probably not going that far down their profile before going and reading a bit more into it. So if you basically losing interest. So if you haven't captured somebody's attention on your profile quickly enough, you might lose out on somebody, as an example. But featuring content's a good way to sort of bring that right to the top and say, okay, I've got this article I've written, or there's this post that did really well. You can feature that content at the top of your profile. Again, this isn't a must do, just something to be aware of that you can do. Okay. What you must do is I do recommend going through and detailing at least your most recent work experience. And so when I say most recent, you can see here this person they've worked at this company, they're a senior accountant and they were an accountant. If you've got several roles within the most recent company or experience, don't necessarily need to update every single one of them. I say the most recent 1 or 2 roles would be sufficient. And also from that lens of what are you trying to achieve in those roles? We'll go from this, I'll sort of step through a couple of examples with someone who's looking for a job. You're probably going to showcase that experience from what did you do well? How did you perform well? How did you shine in that role? Okay, so you're looking for a new job. This is what I have done previously. If you're in a job that you're enjoying, you're not necessarily looking for a job, what you're probably going to do is you're going to highlight a couple of things in your experience that showcase what you've done already, but then also you can talk about the future. I'm hoping to Brenda's case here, we're trying to increase our sales and marketing efforts, and this is what I'm working on to make that happen. And just putting that in there. Again, it's much more of where LinkedIn profile is looking at your story and what you're trying to tell people about you, rather than I'm trying to apply for this job with a CV. So you have a bit more flexibility there. And again, those are recommendations. If you don't feel comfortable putting in like what you're sort of working towards, then don't. And you want to keep it a bit more CV-esque, go for it that way. What I would recommend is just making sure that your most 2 to 3 roles that you've had, most recent 2 to 3 roles that you've had, are up to date, have some content in there, have something that you've worked on. You've tagged. What you can do now is you actually tag skills to specific roles that you've worked on. So if there's specific skills you're trying to highlight, or you know that hiring managers are looking for, make sure those are tied against your roles as well. Okay. And there is a question. I need a drink of water. So would the featured content be a place to add artwork if you're an artist? Absolutely. So the featured content, I'm actually going to cough. I'm just going to mess up. So feature content would be a place to add your artwork if you're an artist, Karen. So what I recommend is putting a post together and sharing that first, which I'll talk about a little bit in a little while, and then featuring that post. But yes, I would say that is a good place to sort of share your artwork if you're an artist. Good question. Perfect. What else do I want to highlight on this? If you're struggling to write this as well, because this can also be difficult. Again, ChatGPT is your friend, or any of the Copilot tools or anything like that. But what I would say is similar. Why are you doing what you do now? It can make you stand out. Again, if you're happy in your role and you're not moving, but you're doing something new, or you're working in your job, why do you do what you currently do? And then also, if you are looking for a job, why were you successful? Why were you the best person in that role? And don't hesitate a little bit from pumping your own tires. Appreciate that phrase maybe is a miss, but yeah, stoke yourself up, whatever it is, like make yourself look good. Okay. Definitely embellish your results a little bit there. Absolutely. Unless somebody asks you about it, who's going to know? Great question. I'm not looking into it that deep. Okay. I work at LinkedIn. That's my whole job. I'm joking. Okay. If for some folks here, maybe you've gone on a career break, we can use the most obvious one is maternity leave, or if you went on a sabbatical at some point, you can actually add a career break in there. Just highlighting this, the reason this is in there and it's useful is there's a sort of this misconception that, oh, if I didn't work for 6 months, or I didn't work for 10 months, whatever, what did I even do with those 10 months? You probably did a ton. You don't even realize. You just got skills in different ways. You learned things in different ways. If you went traveling, you learned very quickly how to make friends in foreign places. That's a skill. That's making connections, driving new relationships that you didn't have before. Or maybe you became a mother or a father. And then that's, I'm sure I can speak to every single mother and father on this call here and shout out how many new skills you had to learn very, very quickly, right? So think about it from that perspective. It's a career break, but it's a career break from the sort of traditional sense of the word of a career, but you're learning things all the time. Unless maybe you just sat on the couch for 6 months and watched Netflix, but even then you probably watched a documentary or two, okay, and you won you won the lottery. Yeah, if you could just sit on your couch for 6 months and watch Netflix, awesome. That might sound like the greatest thing ever. No, not really, but you're probably learning something, right? So make sure that you have that. If you did take a career break and you highlight, how is it beneficial? How do you bring that to your next sort of play that you're talking about? And this piece, this slide, good voice crack there, 14-year-old boy, Luke is coming out again here. So add skills and get endorsed. So the second portion there is getting endorsed is kind of going away. LinkedIn, you might not have noticed, but we've been slowly phasing out the endorsement piece, but the skills are still highly prevalent. Talked about it at the beginning, sort of 39,000 different skills on the platform. What you can do is actually update your individual work experiences and tag them with specific skills that you got from those roles. And I would encourage you to do that. If you're searching for new roles, what you can do is actually a good trick to think about is looking at roles that you're interested or jobs that you're interested in and see what skills they actually list there. And then think about, oh, do I have those skills? Do I have something similar? I do. Okay, I'm interested in those kind of roles. Again, it'd be sort of a company or a class of roles that you're after. Go and take some common skills from there that you know that you have and make sure you attribute them to your profile in some way. Just an easy way for your context as well. We have this sort of LinkedIn recruiter tool, which recruiters can actually use to search the platform and find people that might be good, suitable people for their company. And more often than not, they will include specific skills for that and search based on skills to make sure they're at least on there somewhere. Okay. And one thing I'll note on that as well, and especially is because we had somebody asking around like working in shipyards and things like that, for certain specifications or certain qualifications that you may have, thinking around like safety certifications or 3-letter acronyms that I've never heard of, make sure those are on your LinkedIn profile somewhere. They don't necessarily need to be in the skills section because they might not be a sort of normalized skill that we have on there for 3-letter acronyms specifically for sure. But what you can do is make sure they're on your work experience somewhere. So that word, the phrasing, the 3-letter acronym, whatever it is, make sure that's highlighted that you do have that certification on there. Okay. You can add specific certifications to your profile as well. I can't remember if I kept that slide in here. No, I didn't. But you can actually add those certifications as well to a certain portion of your profile. But I would just make sure if you don't remember that, at least it's highlighted in your experience somewhere or in your summary is a good place as well. If you're using the accountant as the example, if you've gone through the CPA exam, making sure that's highlighted again, because again, you have recruiters using the tool to search for people based on those skills all the time. So just keep that in mind. And I'll check for chat. Any questions on any of that? Because as you saw, we're going to jump into a whole new section. So awesome. So this portion, while I appreciate is what everybody thinks about when they think about social media, is about sharing and making sure I get my voice heard out there. It's not something that you necessarily have to do, and I'll sort of use a good anecdote as in a way that it can be a little bit detrimental to a degree. I don't know if anybody saw there was a viral post went extremely viral from somebody who posted on LinkedIn to say, I proposed to my fiance this weekend. Here's what it taught me about B2B sales. Oh my God, puke in my mouth. What are you talking about? That's the kind of thing we don't want you to be. I don't, well, actually, if you want to do that, knock yourself out. I wouldn't encourage you to put things like that on LinkedIn. And that's sort of when people think about LinkedIn, definitely comes with an air of like, oh, it's very self-serving. It's very a little bit cringy. It's like, what is LinkedIn? What I'm trying to encourage you to talk about here when we talk about your voice on LinkedIn is bringing that authenticity and bringing that curiosity that you have, that everybody has within them, to the platform to help yourself. Again, it is a social media platform. It is a place where you can, it's designed to help you talk about yourself. So don't try and share away from that. And I work with a lot of British audiences. British people do not necessarily have a very outgoing bone, very reserved, and I'm not going to talk about myself that way. So I hope this audience is a little bit more open to that. I appreciate it. Somebody said it earlier, they wanted to increase their sort of willingness to post and things like that. So I'll give you a couple tips here. Before I do that, is there a place to find keywords, lists of skills for roles? Missed that piece. Yes, Karen, on specific was there's not necessarily a place on LinkedIn, but most job posts or job ads will have skills listed on there where they talk about we require this skill or this skill would be nice to have. What you'll see some roles do as well is yeah, they'll list those things out or they'll be in the sort of description of it. And then from there, you can take a look and say, okay, I definitely have that skill. I definitely have this skill, whatever it is, and then bring that to your own profile. So there's not necessarily a single place unless, and I'm not going to pitch for you going and purchasing LinkedIn Premium, but on LinkedIn Premium, that functionality exists where it'll show you the top skills of applicants for that role. So if people have applied on LinkedIn, that we can capture the skills they have on their profile and where they're coming from and actually apply that to that. So to answer your question, no, there isn't, but there is within the job description themselves, but it'll be a different format for every company. So keep that in mind. And how serious is the bot problem on LinkedIn? How should we navigate that issue? Noah, maybe you can give me a bit more context to what you mean there. From a safety skill, while you're sort of typing, maybe a response to me, Noah, is we take it very seriously not to have fake profiles on our platform. So if you ever see one that you don't that you know is fake, like for instance, I have a client who it's a 1,200 person company here based in the UK, and somebody listed themselves as the CEO in Singapore, I believe they were, and they had 2 followers, 2 connections. They definitely weren't the CEO of this company. Okay, so we just reported that profile, and that profile gets taken down. So we're serious about it. Has it become a bit more of an issue from people with just not necessarily like Chat GPT-esque? Yeah, but most companies are sort of facing that problem as we shift into the age of generative AI. There is sort of a bit more content being thrown at our sort of filters than before. And to yourself, how should you navigate that issue? I'm not sure specifically, Noah, what issue you're navigating, but I'll move ahead. Hopefully you put a response for me in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, but I'll jump ahead in the meantime. So there's sort of 2 ways of updating, and I'm going to focus a lot on the left-hand side here, the sharing updates versus publishing posts. So the publishing side is much more around long-form topics. If there's any academics on this call, I don't know if there are, but if you're obviously posting and publishing to academic articles or writing for that, there's definitely, you can just sort of repurpose that and put that back on LinkedIn. For those folks who have a blog, same thing. You can just sort of put it onto LinkedIn as well. But I'm going to focus a little bit on the left-hand side and how you can get more involved in the conversation on the left-hand side. So there's several different ways you can post updates. You could share links, share articles, share images, quotes, or anything else that you think people might be interested in, or sort of create a bit of buzz there. But from that, I'll give a few sort of best practices. So sharing those sort of status updates or those updates on profile on LinkedIn. So the best practice, number 1, said it earlier, share your authentic voice with that sort of, always have that sort of person sitting on your shoulder. If you currently work at a company or if you're not currently in a job, think about it from, we can use the University of Victoria UVic example here. If I put this on LinkedIn, is this something that UVic would put on LinkedIn? Is this something that my company would put on LinkedIn? So while it needs to be your authentic voice, it can't be that sort of super authentic where you talk about how your B2B sales improved because you proposed to your fiance over the weekend. That's sort of the level of that was way too authentic, but also not really, because he was also using it as a way to sort of pump up his sales business. So share with your authentic voice, but just be mindful about how you're doing that as well. Okay, so a bit of a contradictory advice there. Post frequently, but posting frequently is different for everybody. So your frequently might be once a month. Your frequently might be once every 2 weeks, once a week, whatever that is. Find out what works well for you in terms of posting. And I'll say that we use the word post here, but you can do all kinds of different things on LinkedIn to sort of join the conversation. You can share somebody's content. So if I use the example of UVic again, if UVic shares something that's really interesting or thought-provoking for yourself, click the share button on there and add your sort of authentic voice on top of it. I found this really inspiring to hear that the University of Victoria is doing X, Y, and Z, and I'd love to see other universities doing it. Great, easy, small lift for yourself, creates a sort of a bit of a buzz, or you can ask a question. You can, we sort of talk about that a little bit here as well. A question always generates a little bit of to and fro with people as well. So if you, again, share some content, oh, this is really great to see from the University of Victoria. Have you done something similar at your company or at your university before? I'm curious to learn more. Post that out there as well. Again, for things like that, it's going to generate a bit more of a conversation, a bit more sort of opportunity to reciprocate for people. So do that with a question or something like that. And again, frequency is up to you. So start a conversation or share your point of view. Again, this is where you sort of think about ask a question or just put something out into the world. When you're putting something out into the world, sharing your point of view, making sure you always have that sort of lens on, or that UVic person on your shoulder, that you're sharing your point of view, but you're not necessarily doing something that could harm your sort of brand or your perception in the future. Okay. And then start a conversation. There's sort of the polls on LinkedIn. You can ask a question through a poll. Is everybody, what's your favorite kind of dessert? I don't know if that's necessarily appropriate for LinkedIn, maybe more of an Instagram poll thing, but things like that. What are you doing? Has your, a good example of the last couple of years, has your company stuck with remote working? Are you going to a hybrid workforce? Are you going fully back into the office as an example? So start a conversation, ask a question through a poll, like that. Rich media. So if you ever have rich media, Carmen, hopefully some of your art comes through in this rich media, you can increase engagement. We've constantly sort of shifting. We're moving everything. I mean, using TikTok as an example, I mean, things fly at your face really fast through images that way. So using rich media can help increase engagement and capture people's attention, even if the image is just literally that used to capture attention, and then you have a bit of text to sort of build on the idea. And I did say this a little bit earlier, but create the opportunity for reciprocity is basically give people an opportunity to come back to what you're saying. So ask a question, add a comment to what they've posted, share their content, and put your sort of point of view on top of it. So there's a couple of different ways to think about when you're doing that. An easy way to start for those folks who haven't posted anything before, again, maybe you just like something. Maybe you just share something with a quick thing on top. Maybe you comment on something for the first few times. Then we can start talking about like when you're creating content yourself or creating things yourself to talk about. There's a good example of somebody who was here in the UK who was searching for a job, like some people on this call, who just started posting once in a while, talking about the sort of lamenting about like how difficult it was to find a job and the interviews they were going to and so on. And then it just slowly snowballed. And now they're a creative writer working in not at LinkedIn, but they're working partnered with LinkedIn on job seeking advice and things like that. So you never know what could come out of the back of this. Okay. So just be consistent, post at your frequency, and share your authentic voice. Okay. And there was a question that jumped up. Oh, Nicole, getting really specific with the question. So what kinds of video content is best for LinkedIn at the moment? Horizontal, square, vertical style, real style, etc. Is this shifting? I would say any video content is better than no video content. So we do have sort of the vertical style, and I think that's the stat is that 86 or 87% of our users on LinkedIn are mobile. Okay, so majority of people are on their phone. There's still a heavy percentage on desktop as well. So there is no sort of, I don't have a recommendation for this kind of video content. Just create something, I would say. Deal with it afterwards. My recommendation would be, and you'd probably see there's good courses on this, is film it horizontally, because if you put it onto YouTube or anything like that, then you have that horizontal version, but making sure your subject is centered. So if you need to crop it, your person that you're sort of is drawing the attention is in the middle somewhere. That's my sort of general recommendation. There's no sort of content that's best for LinkedIn at the moment. I would say it is more engaging than just general text posts, but there's no sort of specific formatting that's doing better than the others. Great. Again, when you're putting things onto LinkedIn, how to get into that featured content, Carmen and Noah were asking around, you can absolutely, when you put something out there, it becomes part of your profile and you can feature it. It gets shared with your network. You might see that some people actually click like or engage with a post in other ways, and it might show up on your feed. That's sort of a differentiating feature that we have against other social media platforms, is that you get potential additional engagement from that. So I'm sure my friend on this call is probably like, yeah, Lucas, I see you like stuff all the time. Because I do like stuff all the time, and that's sort of my way of engaging consistently. And this does reach a large group of professionals that have been assembled online. So you have that potential reach as well. I'm not going to go through specifics of publishing unless somebody really wants to, but this is more around that sort of long form article publishing. This applies to updates and publishing as well, though, tracking your progress. So for every post that you make on LinkedIn, you will have some sort of stats behind it that will say, this is how your post performed. Here's who's viewing it. Here's their job titles, things like that. So this is a good steer. This will give you a good steer of who's actually engaging with your content. Again, LinkedIn, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it give you a good steer on how you're performing and where you can go next. But the last section I'm going to cover is how do you get more out of LinkedIn besides that. So the first one is follow companies that you're interested in, companies that might be peers of yours, companies that might be competitors of yours. Follow them and see what they're posting about, see what their content they're putting out into the world. More often than not, it's going to be more business focused, more business to business focused or business to consumer focused rather than their Instagram profiles or their TikTok profiles would be a bit more fun and engaging. We're seeing a lot more companies post like quarterly updates, like their CEO going on and give quarterly reports and things like that. So you can learn a lot about companies by following them on LinkedIn. Follow influencers or thought leaders on LinkedIn as well. We use the example of Bill Gates. I can appreciate he's not everybody's favorite. I always use the example of Richard Branson in the UK here, which are two straight white men. So I appreciate that as well. There's also there's tons of others. I always recommend Oprah's got a funny presence on LinkedIn because she has a good tone of voice on LinkedIn. Melinda Gates has a good tone of voice on LinkedIn as well. But find somebody who's relevant to your industry or the industry you want to get into and follow them as well. Okay, so just a recommendation, see what they're putting out in the world. And they're a good one to sort of piggyback off the back of share their content, add your 2 cents on top of it. Okay, so follow influencers. You have this massive set, and I sort of highlighted it at the beginning, this massive set of data on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to go and interrogate it. Okay, so we give you a lot of search filters and a lot of ways to sort of find what's important to you. Okay, similarly on your newsfeed as well. If you find that you're getting a lot of content from people you're not necessarily connected to or aren't providing value to you as an individual and what you're trying to achieve, hide their content, move them onto a mute, or say, I would like to see less content from this. So under the three little dots, whenever you see content on the newsfeed, there's going to be three little dots at the top right. You're going to click on that and say, I would like to see less content like this. Because we're trying to focus, again, this LinkedIn profile is about you and what you're trying to achieve. It's for you. So don't necessarily suffer through the sadness and going to have to sort of slog through all of that. Leave people out who aren't providing value to you anymore. And similarly, search for that information that you want. Okay. Google is a good help for this as well. So start from Google. I would like to find X, Y, and Z on LinkedIn and see where it directs you. And then once you're in here, you can refine your search a little bit as well. Okay. I already jumped ahead of myself, customizing your feed, seeing the posts and content that you want and matters most to you. Again, several options here so we can unfollow people. And you would have seen, so Marcel here liked Jeff's or liked a post by Flex's company. You can choose which one do you want to not see anymore. Do I not want to see Marcelo's content? Do I not want to see Jeff's content? Or you just don't want to see that in general. And if you tell us that, it informs our sort of algorithm, okay, this is not something that you're interested in. Try our best not to give you that anymore. Okay. And that's from the three little dots and top right as well. And then the last thing, because I know I forgot to put the slide in here, is networking, and everybody asks about it. So I'm actually going to just stop sharing because I don't have anything to show you. But so networking is an interesting one. So LinkedIn is this massive network that you have the ability to tap into. And I'll actually sort of showcase, I'll share my screen a little bit instead, share my sort of actual LinkedIn for that. So you can see here on the University of Victoria's page, by you putting in your education on your LinkedIn profile that you went to the University of Victoria and you set a graduation date. As soon as you do that, you become, and that graduation date passes, you become an alumni of LinkedIn. So you can see here, there's over 111,000, almost 112,000 alumni on LinkedIn. So all you have to do is come to the UVic page here, come to the alumni tab, and then you have this opportunity to start networking with somebody who may already sort of be familiar with, just through the connection at LinkedIn, at UVic on LinkedIn. Okay. So you can start searching for people. If I actually, it'll give me some suggestions of people I may know. These would be people that graduated around the same time. Let's see here. Okay, Joe, I know Joey Glazer. I'm already connected to him. Great. My friend will appreciate that shout out. Tyler, I know Tyler. These are people that I can connect with. And why am I showing you this? Is you have a warm way to introduce yourself to these people. If you see someone, let's use somebody I don't know, and really, why is this person? They're going to be like, why are you looking at my profile, Lucas? So let's go on Adam's profile. Okay. You read their profile, you're like, wow, Adam's got a great profile. I'm really interested in what he's doing. He's done great things. He's a delivery manager. What is a delivery manager? Don't know. Product delivery manager. I assume that's the same thing. Great. Okay. Oh, he's in London too. That's probably why I know him. I'm supposed to know him. Great. He's based in London. Let me reach out to Adam. So I want to send him a message. Hopefully I don't mess this up too badly. One of the things that people always struggle with the most is the actual writing this message. Keep it short, sharp, to the point. For the most part, you're just trying to learn more from Adam, right? So, hi, Adam. I saw you're a UVic alumni. Me too. Great. I was curious about your experience at, it was builder.ai or something. I nailed that. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I can also just scroll down and have a look, actually. It was builder.ai. Nice job, me. And would like to learn more about the company. Do you have 15 minutes to chat with me? This is networking on LinkedIn. This is more often than not, I would say 7, 8 out of 10 people will receive this message and see that you're not trying to sell them something and you're not trying to steal something from them. You're just trying to learn a little bit more. They will respond to you and say, yes, I would love to speak for 15 minutes about my experience at builder.ai. I can appreciate for people who haven't reached out to people cold like this before, it can be a little bit daunting, but just know a couple of quick tips. You'll see here, how are we related? Why am I reaching out to you specifically? Why? I want to set up a conversation. I was curious about your experience at Builder AI. Maybe I want a job at Builder.ai. Maybe I want to learn more about what a product delivery manager does. And then the call to action. Do you have 15 minutes to chat with me? Whatever it is, or meet for coffee, whatever it may be, if that's what you want to do. Or if you just want to be connected, that's another way to approach it. Hopefully not going to send him this message. Yeah, that would be a little bit strange. But when you do connect with people on LinkedIn, so if you click this connect button here, always add a personalized message. Always say, I'm connecting with you because we're both UVic alumni and we're based in London. It'd be great to connect. Something that ties you together, adds that connection. Don't necessarily be too afraid of this. This is probably the most underutilized portion of the LinkedIn platform. People just think it's about posting updates and finding a job. No, it's also about connecting with people and seeing how they could potentially help you. Okay, it's really powerful. You can connect with any of the 1 billion people on the platform, okay, as long as you have some sort of tangential link to them. So that first place is going to be, like I said, going to, maybe if I step back, hopefully it'll go back here, come back to the UVic alumni page, search by the title. If you're looking for jobs, that's a good example. So if you're looking for specific jobs, search by that title, see who has that job, learn a little bit more about it. Great. You wanted to work at a specific company, see if there's anybody who worked at that company. Right. Those are good examples for that. And then the other one is there are alumni groups as well. And I think, Carrie, you may talk about this a little bit more, but there's a ton of alumni groups. So just come onto the platform here. You can appreciate I work in dark mode. That's not everybody's cup of tea, but you can come into the search bar at the top here and just type in UVic alumni or similar. And there are a ton of alumni groups as well. Okay, so potentially you belong to one of these, and this would be helpful for you as well, and you connect with people that way. Okay, so that's what I'll sort of say on networking. Appreciate we've got 3 minutes till the hour here. I don't have a hard stop, so I'll see if there's any other questions before I jump off this. When searching in that alumni section, is there any way to get search results of actual people, or do we just get the graphs? Am I doing this wrong? Oh no, maybe I'm promoting something you don't actually get. Nice. Okay, no, so you just have to maybe, Nicole, you didn't come far enough down because hopefully what the program's trying to do is give you suggestions here. So this is account director. If you scroll down a little bit, maybe don't hit show more. This sort of shows you where they live a little bit. So this hopefully filters it down even further. Yeah, British Columbia account directors, and hopefully they're at the bottom here. Maybe you were doing it wrong, Nicole, but I don't want to call you out in front of everybody. That would be, especially on a recorded video, no chance. I think you were doing it right. Just didn't go far enough. Any other questions? Carrie, was there anything you wanted to add before I sort of?
No, I don't think so. You've touched on so many great things. Yeah, if there's anything people want to do a follow-up about, I know we mentioned a little bit about ethnic or given names. I always say whatever name you want to bring forward professionally is the name you should be using. And again, that pronunciation thing, if it's hard to pronounce, great advice. A lot of us have gaps in employment, if you ever want to talk about that, I've helped a lot of people sort of translate what that should look like. This is a great way to start networking, everyone. So I hope that it's such an easy way. Networking can be kind of scary. So remember, it's all just about kind of creating a connection and asking those simple questions like Lucas told you, right? It creates a buy-in, right? You say who you are or whatever that beginning thing is, and a simple question that's not going to require a big answer. Can you tell me what your entry point was into your role? Something like that if you're just beginning. So just sort of creating that connection and buy-in so they're a little more invested in what you have to say as well. And those requests for informational interviews, if it's 15 minutes, those are invaluable if you're starting in a new career or transitioning or something like that. Having that information is great. I know people are going to start leaving again. So before that, even though Lucas says he has time to answer more questions, I just really want to give him such a big thank you. This was so much great information. It's great to hear it from somebody else. Lucas, you just are a total pro. Thanks so much. You volunteered your time to support your alma mater, all your UVic alumni, and I really appreciate it. Anybody else before? Yeah, and I'll put my contact, Lois. I see that there. I'll throw
And
that
then
in.
Lucy, yeah, Lucy had a question. Thank you so much for that, Carrie. It's my pleasure. And anybody feel free to reach out and connect with me as well. If specifically, if you want to try your hand at a cold reach out, I'm happy to be a guinea pig and give you some feedback on that as well. So if you want to try a cold reach out, you can do that with myself. But Lucy asked if you are open, just almost jumped away. If you're open to work, but not with the banner, can you not be visible to certain people, i.e., or example, recruiters at your spouse's company? Lucy, that's a very specific, I don't know what your spouse's company is searching for, but you can't necessarily. So when you set that option to be open to work, you can hide it, but you can't hide it from specific recruiters. So if somebody's using the recruiter tool, they can still see that from using it. So unfortunately, you are very much an edge case with that, but yeah, so there's no real way to sort of hide that at that specific level.
Anybody else? Feel free to just unmute and jump on if you like.
Yeah, and I'm happy with awkward silence or trying to fill it with some sort of just ramble as well. You saw I just did, what did I do? 45 minutes of full ramble there. So any other questions?
Okay, well, I think people are starting to head out. Thanks everyone again for joining us. Thanks. I see lots of people that I've talked to before. I appreciate you coming on. I hope you learned a lot. Big thanks again to Lucas, and hopefully we'll see you again on a future event.